Welcome to a short demonstration of my trading tracker software that I've built in Microsoft Access. I plan to actually rebuild it in a web-based platform so that you just need your web browser and be able to use it anywhere, basically at home, at work, or on your iPad or on your laptop. Wouldn't matter, but for now my prototype is just in Microsoft Access. But when the system opens, the main dashboard shows you all your current positions that you've got currently. As you can see, I've got 38 open positions. And it also then lets you know when you opened it, what strategy are you using with that particular trade, the strike prices, when they're going to expire, and how much have you outlaid for that particular position. And down here it shows you, I call it trade ideas, but basically recommendations that I get from various services that I subscribe to, like Options Alpha or Investors Observer. So I get the trade alerts from Option Alpha, and then I enter them into my database, and they sit here until I actually do the trade, and then I link the recommendation to my trade so I can compare what the recommendation's profit or loss was versus my profit or loss. Over here it just shows what's been my best performing strategies, what's been my worst performing strategies, and from there you can double click and get the detail of how it came up with those numbers over all periods of time. We'll come back to this screen a little bit later. And then it also does the same thing with the underlying securities, what's been the ones that have been best for you and which ones haven't done so well for you. But the main thing with the tracker then is to take all your trading data and the positions that you've opened and closed over time and give you some reports on it. So for example, I want to know how I've done over time, say since the beginning of this financial year. So I just set the date and hit preview. And as you can see, it opens up a Google chart and shows you how your balance of trading has traveled over time. You can see it dropped off a little bit there. I can then do the same thing, but I want to see how much I maybe made per month. Let's just lock it down to say the last quarter. I run the same again, and as you can see now, in fact it's actually been smart enough that it can break it down by week, so I can see week by week how I've been faring during that time frame. You can slice or dice over whatever time frame you like. You could filter it by for example, a certain strategy, or you could filter it by, well, let's see, how have I fared with Investors Observer for all time since I've been subscribing to them. You can see they've been a little bit up and down, but I think overall they were in front. If we come down here, we could then see what security, we can get a report of security. So sorry, that just popped off the screen. You can see that using Investors Observer, these various securities that they recommended, how much was made or lost over time. This particular report ran across 2 pages, so you can see the end result. They were profitable, $460. Now that might be a bit too much information. We can look at a summary of the same set of data, and now you can see it a bit clearer, just each security and how much you've made or lost all time, because I haven't filtered dates, but just filtered by Investors Observer. So you can then report on all the data that you have got in the system, but the question is, how do you get that data into the system? So this is where we come to import activity, and you go to your broker's platform. As you can see, I'm with Charles Schwab, and I come to transactions. Let's wait for that to load for a sec. And once it's opened up, I can export that transaction data, which just shows the date you opened or closed the trade, what was the underlying, how many you bought, the price, the fees, and all the dollars. So all the data's there from your broker. Pretty much all of them should do it. TD Ameritrade or Interactive Brokers, they'll all have something like this where you can get your transaction data. But from there, we just come into the system and we import that data. And as you can see, it's imported a lot of rows from downloading that. And it tells me that it updated 5 positions with some of the data it downloaded. It created 2 new ones, and there's 2 pieces of activity to be assigned to a new position. I think for this particular one, it's a security I haven't traded before, so it wants me probably to create that security. But that's how the data gets into the system. Now, what happens from there is we come into position management, And as you can see, I've now got 39 positions. It just created a new one. When it does bring a new one in, it's missing a few bits of information. So for example, I just opened up a butterfly in the SPX. I like to track what's been its moving average 50, 200 day and say it's RSI. But more importantly, what was the price when you opened it and what was the price when we sell it down the track? If you click the button, it'll go to Google. Of course, that one didn't work. If I try the other one, it'll go to Google and download that price. So at least you got the history later on. And this is where I was talking about if you're getting recommendations from a subscribed service, you can come in here and hit link. And if you've entered it already, you can link that recommendation to your trade. This is a new trade. I can see it was opened on the 27th of November at just before the market closed. The system's automatically worked out it's a debit call spread, loaded up the strike prices, worked out what was your initial debit, what was your maximum risk, and down here we can see that because it was a debit, in fact it was $222 because this basic figure doesn't count the fees and so forth. But when we get to closing positions, like for example, I know that my Microsoft position just closed overnight. Sorry, let's go 27.11. Microsoft closed overnight for me. I can now grab the closing price at the date, the 28th of November. We can see I made a nice profit there, which worked out to a 44% profit. Based on my outlay, it then annualizes this to show if I could keep doing those kind of trades all year long, that's how much I would make. And as we can see down here, we opened it on the 20th of November. It was just an in-out debit spread, and we closed out. We're in the trade for 8 days, and we closed out this morning. I had a good till cancelled order, and we made $141. So that's how the system manages data, just purely off your trading history. You don't have to really key anything much in except for your getting your opening closing prices. And if you want to track some of the technicals, you can choose to pick which technicals you track, but I'm only tracking these three for now. So just while we're on position management, we could, for example, say, well, let's just have a look at how I've done with all my synthetic collars. So we'll slide down to synthetic collar, and I only want to see where I've performed those trades on ETFs, or I want to filter them by stocks. And as you can see, you can just look at it and see how your annualized returns would be if you just kept doing that strategy, how long on average you're in that type of trade. For example, I might want to know how have I been tracking with iron butterflies, for example. I haven't done so well with iron butterflies, but the advantage then is what you can do is you can see who recommended that trade to me, but I can then just print that out, and it'll just export that data straight to Excel. So you can then do any further data analysis or slicing and dicing that you please. It just gives you the security code, the date you opened it, over here somewhere. It gives you the date you closed it. It's pretty rough. It's just the raw data, but it does then give you your profit and loss and all that sort of thing. If you're good with Excel, you can do, you know, whatever you might be trying to do with that data. So that's how it gets the data, how you can manage your positions. You can filter your positions to see what's working, what's not working. And that's that section there. And the last section, of course, is then actually looking at each security. So at the moment, I only worry about securities that I trade in, but you know, you could have the whole 3,000 stocks on the American market if you wanted to. But even just within the securities, I can say just show me ETFs, just show me stocks, doesn't really matter which. And like for a stock, it will tell you, does it have weekly options, how much you've made or lost to date, when was the last time you traded it. So the last time was in May this year. I've had 6 trades with Ambarella, and the last time I did a technical review on it was in March this year. So if, for example, I was monitoring stocks, the moving averages or RSIs, I might then want to sort by the technical review. So down the bottom here, you can see, you know, these are the ones that I've done recently. I might need to update one from back in the past if I want to say do another trade on one of these securities. From there, what I can do is I might be just certain securities I'm interested in watching, so I've tagged them as yes, I'd like to watch them. Say for example, Alcoa. On 8th of May, I made a note to myself that the chart looks good for just doing diagonals on them. You know, what did I have for American Airlines? Yep, the moving average was above the 200 moving average, so it looks good for doing synthetic covered calls. So, and what else am I been looking at? And while looking at a couple of ETFs here, you know, and have I got any notes or anything against any of them? So that's kind of all handy. Say, for example, I want to jump into a certain underlying security. So I'll say I pick the TLT, the Treasury bonds. I can see I've just done a recent trade because it grabs this technical data from each position. You can see here I've done quite a number of trades, and you can see where I've either done my own trade or a trade from Option Alpha. Again, you've got your averages and how much you'd make if you just kept on using this security all year round. So look, that's the end of my short demo on the trading tracker, but any questions, I'd love to hear some feedback. Thank you for now. Bye.